As you've probably guessed, I have recently turned 40. It's a milestone. People tell you life begins at 40, but I don't share this view. You see, I'd prefer to be 30. It all started for me when I was about 22. I was out socialising with friends when I started feeling my left leg going numb. Fearing the worst, I made my excuses and hobbled off home. Walking seemed to make it deteriorate even more, so when I finally made it to the couch, I was in a right state. It wasn't until I undid my 28-inch baggy trousers that it all became horribly clear to me, as the wet sensation of blood ran into my buttocks. I realised my trousers were too tight. My blood had been cut off from my leg by the forces of my expanding trunk. The heady days of the 28-inch waist had passed me by. My waistline was putting its foot down and accelerating. From here on in, it was downhill all the way. So, here's some observations of what it's like to be 40. You begin to notice when you drop off your children at school that less and less of the mums are as hot as they used to be as they age along with you. Your older friends assure you that 40 is a good age. What, it gets worse? When you're 20, you feel like you know everything, but when you get to 40, you realise you pretty much know next to nothing. Your sex drive decides to pull over and park for long periods. As you mature, a new mass begins to grow. First, it's hidden, but as the years pass, it grows bigger and bigger, until finally it surfaces beyond the bathwater. Welcome to Gut Island! Ha 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 ha! Your eyesight begins to fail, which incidentally kind of helps out in the playground with the women looking... Anyway. You have the unique power to put teenagers off their music if you merely say that you might like it. Driving at 40 miles an hour feels more like driving at 60. You just want to have a nice, quiet pint. You have to exercise rigorously just to retain the pear shape you already have. Plus, now you have chub friction rashes where your sweaty skin rubs during these intense workouts. Nice. You get a corkscrew on your car keys. You have the money to drive a flash convertible car, but you're too embarrassed to have the roof down because you look such an old troll. When Viagra becomes one of the much bandied around words on your birthday cards. When health and safety inspectors are needed to see if it's safe to light the candles on your birthday cake. Comfort becomes one of those key words you need when selecting shoes. When the doctor actually starts to take your complaints of aches and pains seriously. Your willy goes on holiday behind the island of gut. You got off the popular culture bus to get yourself some boiled sweets, and it pulls off, leaving you behind. The aroma of deep heat becomes part of your signature smell. You can't remember the last time that you had a good memory. Your belly button goes from being an innie to an outie. It's a given that you won't be able to perform the same aerobic displays as teenagers, but it's just plain depressing that you haven't even the hope to match them with the speed that they text at. When Bruce Forsyth starts looking younger. 50-year-olds start having more in common with you than 30-year-olds. You make a noise when you sit on the grass. Your idea of roughing it is going to Center Parcs. You consider the new Star Wars movies to be a pile of poo, but still feel the need to buy the bloomin' box sets. You want technology to, well, stop really, or at least have a cup of tea, so you can get your breath back and catch up with it. You get depressed that snooker is now a young man's game. You get a shed and potter around the garden, or, worse still, dream about getting a shed and pottering around the garden. You notice that you create a stencil of Bombay mix in the shape of your backside on the sofa when you get up to go to bed at night. A mole moves from the front of your belly to the side as your stomach pushes it around to your back. You find talking about plumbing to your friends interesting. When your old unfashionable wardrobe becomes fashionable again. Not thinking about sex for over 10 minutes. You actually look through the Screwfix catalogue. Your interest in all the tools becomes almost sexual, like a 40-year-old's equivalent to porn. You drive out to the seaside and feel the desire to stay put in the car and just watch the sea from the car park. This urge will get stronger and stronger the older you get, until, by the age of 60, you will finally succumb and pack sandwiches for the trip. You grow a goatee to approximate a jawline. When you sneeze, it looks like a small hairy rodent is trying to escape from your nose. All your t-shirts start to develop stretch marks. You actually think that you can hear your bathroom scales sniggering at you as you leave the room. You feel obliged to have a midlife crisis. You run and your gut seems to run 3 steps behind you, complaining all the way. You develop an unhealthy mistrust of machinery. Speed cameras, the newest mobile phones, and scales being the main offenders. You find yourself saying, "I was young once, you know," and not believing it yourself. It's bad enough policemen looking younger to you, but now even the lollipop lady is looking quite fit. That rough and rugged, unshaved look now just looks ragged and rough. Pass the brasso. But look on the bright side. At least you're not 50. I dedicate this book to bile and bitterness that made this project possible.